Hello, adventurers. Welcome to episode number 18 of Adventurous Spirits. This is a weekly musical podcast in which we all seek to reclaim some of the excitement and magic in everyday life. And I am here as your host, Cortney Matz. I've noticed that the people who tend to like my songs and my songwriting also tend to be people who are a bit daring, a bit bold. They go out of the norm. They go in search of excitement and something a little deeper in their everyday lives. Whether it is skydiving or homeschooling or starting a business, trying to make it in LA as an artist, these are all adventurous motives, adventurous spirited activities. And so I just want to honor that, call it out, and sing you some songs that may help with the staying power to keep going in between the beginning, which is exciting, and the end, which is never a known thing. You never know when you're anywhere near the end. And I think when you get to the end, it changes. So there you go. That is, in a nutshell, the intention of this podcast. And I welcome you to chat along with me and weigh in, whether you're listening live or at a later time. The comments are always open here on YouTube. And if you're listening on another platform, I think on Spotify you can actually send a voice message, and I would love for that to happen too. I love conversations in which I can hear from my listeners and get your thoughts. And then I'm just going to be here playing the whole time because every personal growth journey needs a soundtrack. Would you agree? What sort of music have you been listening to so far today? What's been lifting your spirits as you get into the demands of your particular day? Go ahead and put that in the chat. I will be watching as I sing to you. I'm going to start off with a song that I wrote a couple of years ago, and it took me a little while to finish it, but one day the end of it just came. So, oh, hey, Aaron. Welcome. I'm just live streaming my podcast. I have a surprise visitor, just like on Mr. Rogers. It's great. So as I was saying, I wrote this a couple years ago, and the end of it just came to me really strongly one day, and I feel like this is so key to keep in mind as people who try new things, who venture out not knowing how our efforts will fare. It's called Try Again. Secret I don't want to keep about living a life that's full of love with no regrets. Through good days and bad days, the wars will be waged. Things will go wrong when it's not your fault, but sometimes it is. Well, messing up is not the end, not the end, not the end, not the end of the world. We make our mistakes, it colors and shapes our love, but we can try again. every misdemeanor I took personally. I got so lonely, so high and mighty, protecting myself. Oh, but forgiveness is not saying it doesn't matter. Forgiveness is not saying it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is not saying this hasn't changed me in ways that I didn't want. But forgiveness is I care much more about you than this thing we're going through. And I'm willing to try again. We make our mistakes, don't let them shake your love, your love. Oh, won't you try again? Oh, won't you try again? Won't you get up and try again? We can. I'll tell you my secret. Don't we all want a life that's full of love with no regrets? So I wonder how that resonates with you if you feel like you have the freedom to make mistakes and try again, to apologize and ask forgiveness. I think there are environments and seasons of growth where it doesn't always feel like we have that permission, either from ourselves or from the world around us. And so there can be a lot of fear in relating to other people because you have a hard time accessing the freedom to mess up and recognize it or not recognize it and have it brought to your attention, which is also a whole exciting thing, not. It's funny, I know I'm not perfect. I know that I have flaws, that I'm gonna fall flat and say the wrong thing and do a really wrong thing on occasion. I know that's gonna happen. And yet, when I realize it, it's not like, oh yeah, I kind of expected that. It's like, whoa, this came out of nowhere. I had no idea. And I think that's natural. We all are doing the best we can, and we are trying, I think, to live at peace with one another. And it's very easy to just be completely oblivious to how I may be infringing on someone else's space. Either someone who's right here next to me or someone who is distantly affected by my choices. These are all very abstract goodness. How can I bring it home a little bit? I was thinking earlier today about when I used to do a lot more freelance copywriting. I still do a tiny bit, but not nearly as much as I first did when I left my full-time job and began the adventure of self-employment. But I did a lot of writing back in the day, and I had several editors that I struggled with because I don't like getting notes, if I'm just completely honest. Getting notes on something I've created, whether it's video editing or, copywriting, it's just never fun. It is never a good time for me. And I know this about myself. So this will tie in with our theme very soon. But I think I used to always just struggle so much when I sent something to an editor and I was so proud of it. And then I would get back these notes and revisions. And a lot of times, especially from one particular person I used to work with, those notes were just so random. It just was like, I don't understand. It's like you just changed this to change it. Just to sort of justify your job. And that really bothered me. And so I'd have this whole internal conversation, and sometimes I would rant at whoever else was nearby, just like, I can't believe this person and how they are just screwing up my writing. And then one day I took a piece that I thought had been so badly rewritten that you couldn't even tell what it was about anymore. In my opinion, I sent it to some other friends, and I was like, okay, tell me honestly, is this terrible, or am I being super sensitive? I'm so grateful for those friends who took a moment out of their busy day to read the two different options I sent them, the one that I wrote and the one that had been edited. And they're all like, yeah, I think it's pretty much the same. I don't think they changed it, really. It says the same thing as what I read in your initial version. Whereas in my mind, it was so different that they just completely messed it up. So that just gave me some perspective and helped me recognize, all right, this is hard for me. It's hard for me to get edits because I'm very intimately acquainted with every single word that I carefully chose for this copy, which will be read by maybe 10 people. But I know when I care. Oh my goodness. It's funny because it's true. So anyway, once I kind of got to that point where I realized this is not as important as it feels, but I feel that it is very important. And I'm just going to accept that about myself, that I will always care so much more about my original writing than anyone else does. And that doesn't mean that it isn't good and that it isn't worth caring about. It just means there's that dichotomy, and it might be true for other writers as well and other creators. And I feel that way with songwriting sometimes too. Like sometimes I'll be performing a song and completely forget what one of the lines is. And here's a secret, I found that if I just make something up in the moment, everybody still understands what the song is about. They might recognize that I changed the line, but only if they really know the song really well. That's so humbling. Can I just tell you that it's so humbling as a songwriter and as an artist? But also takes the pressure off to recognize, if I mess up, it doesn't just kill the experience for everybody. It's just, little blip. We'll get over it. Just carry on. So I'm just curious if that resonates with you, if you have seen a recurring issue in your own heart and mind that you're maybe seeing this is a pattern. Maybe I need to accept this about myself instead of expecting something else. Maybe I can enjoy my life a little bit more when I recognize this is how I do things. We have Steve in the chat saying, I don't give myself permission to make mistakes, but I make them anyway. I'm a rebel. You go, Steve. He says, as a freelance writer, I totally relate to that. I've gotten some really bad notes from some really clueless clients. The worst are the passive-aggressive ones. Yeah, I mean, I can understand passive-aggressiveness too, because I think sometimes I do that in an attempt to be nice and to say something that will hopefully like give people a clue. But yeah, it is hard to receive. It is hard to receive that passive-aggressive tone. So anyway, just a helpful thought, I hope, along the journey of the power of self-acceptance. I learned that term very recently. I went to a productivity workshop where we were talking about productivity tools and all the things that we mean to do. You know, we're going to be so organized. We're going to schedule things in our calendars, and we're going to sit down once a week and plan. And Suzanne Yeda, who is leading the workshop, said, let's just accept who you are and how you like to do things, and that some of these behaviors are going to be new habits. So give yourself the freedom and the space to learn them. It is a learning curve. It is a thing that we are intentionally developing, and you're going to have a proclivity towards one way of doing things. And I think that concept is so helpful and relates to so much of life. Not just how I relate to myself, but how I relate to you, how I relate to all the people around me who are listening and who are in my life. And I think when we welcome people into our lives, it opens us up to just another level of potential disappointment. We naturally want things. We naturally want people to behave a certain way, and we want to feel a certain way with them. So how do you work through that disappointment? Do you just quit wanting stuff? I don't know if that's really reasonable. I think that's always going to be the case. We're always going to want something. So I've been playing this song a lot through the Easter season, and I think it can be a helpful reflection on disappointment, but also hope. And it's based on a very well-known story in the Bible, so tell me if you recognize it. It's called Beautiful, Beautiful. She saw the brilliance of her King. She brought a priceless offering. She poured out all that she had on his precious feet. Nobody got her point of view. Nobody knew how deep her love. Nobody saw in her heart what only Jesus knew. And he said, this weary heart will sing that you've made a beautiful thing of me. So maybe some of us have had the experience of growing up in a household where you were not really encouraged to share your feelings, especially if they were sort of complainy, which can make it difficult to recognize when you are sad or when you are bored or when you're just feeling anything that it falls in the when you can't say something nice category. And I wouldn't say that we never were allowed to speak our minds my brother and I, when we were growing up, but it was very heavily encouraged to frame it in a way that was not just, saying whatever was in your head, but also trying to consider your listener, which I think is a helpful tool. But it did sort of feel sometimes like it's bad to have feelings that aren't nice, or that are, and I think you know what I mean by that. And, we learn so much as grown-ups anyway, but I'm continuing to enjoy the reality that there are disappointments, there are frustrations in so much of our adventures with one another and on our own. And it's so helpful to just say, this sucks. This feels bad. I don't like it. And I'm so grateful for all of the songwriters who have written songs about these sorts of things that give words and help me to express the feelings that I have that aren't so nice. And to actually feel them, and then to work through them, and then to feel better. And that also is part of this radical acceptance concept. One, not just that I will have these intense feelings, and Mr. Rogers actually talked about that on his show, where it's just like sometimes I just want to play a really heavy chord where it's like, I'm mad. And it is very cathartic to sit down at the piano when you are having these feelings and just blast out sounds. Or to hit a drum, or to punch the air. These are really helpful ways to just physicality-wise deal with our this pent-up energy, this intense feeling. So all of that to say, where was I going with that? I had a point. I really did. I had a point. I think it's important to recognize that we will have feelings, and then other people around us will have feelings. And they're not necessarily our fault, but we get to bear witness to them. We get to be part of the working through of that feeling. I say get to. That's part of the adventure, right? There are things we get to do. So anyway, I hope these are helpful thoughts for your Tuesday and for your rest of the week. If you're having a good time here, would you just take a minute and like this YouTube video, subscribe to my channel. It helps other people see the stuff that we're doing here every week, and maybe we'll encourage them in their adventures. And I just want to do a quick thank you to Epiphany Space for being the unofficial sponsor of this podcast. This is the space that I'm in right now. And if you're looking for more creative, more adventurous spirits in your life, I encourage you to go check out epiphanyspace.com. And one key to acceptance of life and people and yourself is to recognize that we're all in process. And so I want to embrace you. I want to encourage you to embrace the possibilities. And that's what our last song today will be about. If you know it, please sing along. Never know what's underneath the surface or what's around the corner, what's coming at you from all directions. There's a lot of good things that take a long time. I am consistently challenged in my expectations of growth, both in myself and in others, and in my career and in life. I think it is wise to humble ourselves and recognize there's all kinds of stuff going on that we just don't have access to yet. We don't have a clue what's coming. lot of things that may seem very impossible that are just about to happen for ourselves and for others. So I leave you on this note of hope. I want to send you off to your adventures, whatever life is bringing you, whatever you are bringing life. And I just bless it. I hope that it is fun, more and more beautiful, more and more freeing every day as you learn to accept where you are in life and where life is taking you. Even as you are guiding it and steering it towards a place that you really want to go. I want to read you this quote that I read. I didn't read it, I heard it. I was kind of half listening to a documentary that featured some interviews with David Bowie, and I can't even tell you the name of it. It's on HBO. But at the end, he said this thing that just caught my ear, and I was like, I have to remember this and share it. But he says, and David Bowie is just, he's an icon. He's always so interesting. Like his persona is a story. He's an epic artist. But it took him 5 albums to be commercially successful. And this is even back in the day when record labels invested in musicians in a way that they don't really have resources to do now with the current market. But this is what he said. He said, if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about at the right place to do something exciting. So let's go do something exciting. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you would like to help support this podcast and all the songs that I'm writing, release a new song every month on Patreon. You just go to patreon.com/Cortney Matz. And thank you for tuning in. I will be back here next Tuesday at noon Pacific time with more ideas for our adventurous lives. Have a great time. Enjoy yourself, and have fun out there.